Donald Trump, meet the worst news of your life. It doesn't get much more catastrophic than this for you, Donald, among your core base of voters, right? Non-college white men. That's your crew. That's your MAGA team, right? Non-college white men. Well, the latest polling data from Fox. Let me repeat that, from Fox, state regime media. Your state regime media says your approval among white non-college men is net -4. But watch how it just crumbled, your support amongst this group, your core group, right? In March of 2025, you were +17 among the white non-college men. December 2025, you were +10. February 2025, you were about even. By March of 2026, you lost the support of white non-college men. Net -4. You want to take a look at all of these special elections as well that have been taking place? Democrats have flipped a total of 12 state legislative seats in special elections in 2025, 2026 by huge overperformances. You take a look at Texas Senate District 9, Democrats overperformed by 32 points. Or Iowa Senate District 35, Democrats overperformed by 25 points. Iowa Senate District 1, Democrats overperformed by 22 points. Arkansas's House District 70, Democrats overperformed by 20 points. Mississippi Senate District 45, Democrats overperformed by 19 points. Mississippi Senate District 2, Democrats, you get the point, overperformed by 22 points. I could keep on going on. Massive overperformance, meaning this could be the biggest blue tsunami in the history of the United States. A wipeout for Donald Trump and his regime. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, who used to be MAGA, she says, I'm American first. I ain't MAGA anymore. MAGA is dead. Dead, Marjorie Taylor Greene says. Here's what she writes. I'd like to congratulate the two-time congressional candidate loser, Laura Loomer, and Make Israel Great Again, foreign op Mark Levin, and neocon murdering psycho Senator Lindsey Graham for leading Republicans into slaughter going into midterms. Your incessant lies to Trump have destroyed all faith in the GOP. I'd also like to remind everyone that when I led the party on the campaign trail, fighting for America First in 22 and 24, all the GOP did was win. But after Trump called me a traitor and said he would destroy me for releasing the Epstein files, I refused to fight for Trump and the Republican Party that defends the Epstein class, wages pointless foreign wars, and pursues America last. I never changed. Trump and the GOP betrayed their voters and took in trash we threw out of the party. Loomer, Levin, and Lady Lindsay, she calls him Lady Lindsay, are the best political consultants the Democrat Party could ever imagine. And she also reposted the fact that this week, Democrats flipped Florida House District in special election in a deep red seat that includes Trump's Mar-a-Lago. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene continued. It was post after post after post. I want to mention this one thing, though, as she says that Donald Trump continues to cover up for the Epstein class. He continues to cover up a child sex trafficking ring, and that's what this Trump DOJ continues to do. I think that was one of the big first breaking points for all of MAGA, because once they saw that Donald Trump was a fraud on the Epstein files, even though there were so many other areas where I think they should have seen that he was a fraud. But finally, when it came to Trump and his DOJ covering up a child sex trafficking ring, I think that then opened minds to be like, oh, so if you're covering up a child sex trafficking, what about this? And then the dam broke. So I know that Donald Trump and the Trump regime and their DOJ, they want to distract us, right? They want us to not talk about the Epstein files, not talk about domestic issues, not talk about how disastrous it's been at home for him. I want to keep the focus on there. So let me bring in Democratic Congress member from Virginia, James Walkinshaw, because I've got some questions for him about what's going on right now at home. Congressman Walkinshaw and I did this interview yesterday, so I'm wearing a different outfit than this one. But let's bring in that interview with Congressmember Walkinshaw. It's a great interview. Make sure you watch the whole thing. And as Donald Trump continues on with this disastrous war in Iran, and then today, of course, it was market manipulation day, come up with fake negotiations with Iran in order to manipulate the oil and stock markets, run to Fox and CNBC and tell them that we basically have got a deal, to which Iran says, no, we don't. We haven't even been talking to you. There have been no direct or indirect communications. You're making this up to manipulate the markets. I don't want to get lost in all of this. I think one of the reasons that we're in this disastrous war in the first place, Donald Trump's cover up of his dark past and Donald Trump's cover up of the Epstein files. And especially as we were closer to uncovering more and more about the Epstein files, especially Donald Trump's name that had been removed in certain areas. And that was beginning to come out more and more and more. And of course, we know about Donald Trump's connections with Epstein's, even without the Epstein files, and even with some of the stuff that's been released. But then all of a sudden, Donald Trump rushes into this war against Iran, this unconstitutional, unlawful war against Iran. But in this past week, as I mentioned earlier in this video, a lot of important developments have been taking place. I mean, you had Pam Bondi last week. She all of a sudden was like, I'm going to show up in 24 hours and speak with the House Oversight Committee. People are like, what are you going to talk to us? You're subpoenaed to show up in mid-April. Show up to your subpoena. Is this going to be a ploy by you, Bondi, in order to try to avoid your subpoena? It seemed that's exactly what it was. Democrats walked out when it was clear that she was just reading from a script, and this was carefully coordinated between her, Trump, and the MAGA Republicans in the Oversight Committee in order for her to say, look, I did the briefing. Why would I have to show up under oath in a few weeks? Then last week, you had Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, Darren Indyke. He testified, and there's a lot of questions, I'm putting this lightly, about the veracity of his testimony. And then you had Epstein's accountant, Richard Kahn, testify as well. And lots of questions there, too. So I don't want to ignore all of these major developments that are happening. Here to help us break it down is Democratic Congress member from Virginia, James Walkinshaw. And Congressmember Walkinshaw, you were there. I mean, you saw what was going down at these different hearings, at these different, whatever you want to call it, impromptu, whatever the heck Bondi was. Break down just the latest for us on what's going on.
Well, look, I think the big development is Pam Bondi, and we had a bipartisan vote in the Oversight Committee to issue a subpoena to her to say, you got to come before our committee and answer questions under oath, explain why you violated the law, why you didn't release all the files, why you redacted files you didn't have the legal authority to release. You got to come under oath with a transcription, with a video so the American people can see it, and explain that. And she, and I presume with the coordination with Chairman Comer, tried to hold a private, secret, closed-door briefing, clearly to set herself up to say, I no longer need to come before the committee under oath. It was pretty outrageous. And look, the thing that the American people are fed up with when it comes to Epstein is secrecy, right? That has been the issue throughout this Epstein saga, this Epstein tragedy. His secrecy, the government's secrecy, the Trump administration's secrecy, the idea that she would want to have a closed-door, secret, private briefing instead of an on-the-record deposition, I think typifies and characterizes this administration's approach to Epstein and the Epstein files, which is cover up, cover up, cover up.
You know, when James Comer sent that letter to Pam Bondi attached with the subpoena, I said, it's particularly strong language coming from Comer to Bondi. You know, I gave credit where credit was due, which is very little in my book when it comes to Comer. But I also said, I wonder what's really going on here. And it seems that this was kind of carefully choreographed. I'm going to send you this letter. I'll go on the various media networks, look like I'm being tough. But then what you got to do is you show up for this private briefing where you're not under oath. The Democrats will get angry. We'll all blow it up together. And then we'll say, you see, look what's going on. She tried. And then this is your way out, Bondi. And ultimately, it's just belittling to, I think, people's intelligence. Like, I don't know, Congressman, maybe this worked in the past, you know, and these kind of shticks and shenanigans and tricks were like, but like to your point, it's like, we know you're doing this and it looks like a bad SNL skit because the stakes are really high.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think it's insulting, and it's insulting to a lot of the MAGA base out there, right? I mean, the Epstein issue is one that really cuts across party lines. I hear it from Democrats, independents, and Republicans in my district. What the hell is going on with these files? Why are they covering up these files? Why is there so much secrecy? So then to try to turn a subpoena and a sworn deposition, which is under oath with a public record, into a secret private briefing, I think is a slap in the face to the millions of Americans who are outraged about this. It's definitely a slap in the face to the survivors who have been pushing for transparency and accountability. I don't think it's going to work. She's going to have to testify under oath, whether it's in this Congress, as it should be, or in a future Congress, about why she has violated the law with respect to the Epstein Transparency Act.
Let's talk about some of these other individuals who showed up. Indike, the lawyer, who's also very much involved in the state. These people also have made a lot of money, also kind of administering the estate. Khan, the accountant, and these people were involved in Epstein-related settlements and interactions with survivors. And, anyone who speaks to survivors will know that they bring up these names over and over and over again. And I know that once the Indike depo especially was over, people were surprised that he didn't invoke his Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. I heard some of that. What was your observations generally about these depositions that have taken place?
These two guys, Darren Kahn and Richard Indike, were Epstein's accountant and lawyer. Those were their official titles. The reality is that both of them were fixers for Jeffrey Epstein, who fixed any problem that he had and facilitated anything he wanted to be facilitated. So these are the guys who withdrew large amounts of cash from Epstein's bank accounts and made sure that cash made it into Epstein's black bag. The cash that Epstein used to pay off victims and survivors and the recruiters of his sex trafficking ring. So all of the horrible things that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and likely others were involved in were possible only because of Kahn and Indike. And they both say the same thing as Donald Trump, by the way, which is, yeah, I had a long relationship and friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, it was an in-depth relationship over many years, but I saw no evil and I heard no evil in terms of the crimes that Epstein was committing. In all of their cases, I find it very difficult to believe. I just find it hard to believe. And Kahn and Indike also have received and are set to receive an insane amount of money from Epstein in the estate. Indike told me that he was paid over the course of his time working for Epstein between $27 and $30 million in salary. He also received $7 million in loans from Epstein that he has not paid off. And Epstein's will leaves him $50 million. And yet he claims to have had no personal relationship with Epstein, only a business relationship. I don't know of anyone who leaves $50 million in their will to someone with whom they only have a business relationship. It doesn't make sense.
Where do we go from here, Congressman, as we approach, in a few weeks, Bondi's supposed to have her deposition under oath. She's supposed to appear before the committee. She seems like she's going to try to squirm out about that. Obviously, there are so many things happening in our country where we do get distracted. I mean, hell, we're in this horrific war and Donald Trump's talking about Iranian public relations people and jointly controlling the Strait of Hormuz with the new Ayatollah. I mean, the things that he is saying is so dangerously and maliciously idiotic that you could enrapture your entire day in a fraction of the things that he says before 8:11 a.m. in the morning. So what do we do though? Because we need to focus on their cover up of the Epstein files. How do you deal with it? How's the Oversight Committee approaching it? What should people take away from this before we go?
Well, one, as a starting point, we have to continue to push for the release of all the files. We know there are 3 million files that still have not been released. And I have said that this investigation can't begin to end until we have all the files so we can follow every potential lead or avenue that the files reveal to us. We also got to get the illegal redactions unredacted. So we can't stop pushing for that. While we do that, the Oversight Committee's investigation continues. As you noted, we have the Pam Bondi deposition scheduled. She needs to show up. If she doesn't show up, Democrats are going to be pushing to hold her in contempt, just as Chairman Comer tried to do with the Clintons when they didn't show up on the date that he set. We got to push for a clear and fair and consistent standard there. We're also going to be deposing one of the prison guards, Tova Noel, who was supposed to have been checking on Epstein's cell on the evening, the night that he died. She received large cash payments from somebody and was making large cash deposits into her bank account in the days and weeks before his death. As the Miami Herald has reported, I'm going to be asking her questions about that to figure out where that money came from, whether there's any connection between that money and Epstein's death. So we have a lot of avenues to pursue, but we got to get the full files out there.
Congressman Walkinshaw, thanks for making sure that this doesn't fade away the way Trump wants it to fade away, and all the great work you and other Democrats in the House Oversight Committee are doing. I'll just say this. It's good to see new leadership, new members go in with this new attitude. I think is a change, and we can actually see in the Oversight Committee, particularly with the great work that you and others are doing there, like what that looks like. So thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.